I never really wanted to play Cyberpunk 2077. It never seemed to be a type of game for me. The launch of it was questionable and it was pretty lackluster. However, I did hear that the lore of the game was amazing. Holy fucking shit, this looks amazing! This robot is a fucking beast. Holy shit. You don't really get that many shows where you see buff robots and hot cyborgs beating the shit out of each other. I ain't complaining. There is nothing wrong with that. Cyborgs and robotic enhancements are one of the coolest things I have ever seen. From Teen Titans to RoboCop, I love it all. So it might explain why I love the cyberpunk aesthetics. From the dystopian clustered cities to the nightlit streets, there are so many reasons why I love this style. The colors, the music, the people, and the world that is insane. It's hard for any show to capture a lot of these aspects, but there comes an anime that is able to do that perfectly. And that anime that did it for me was Cyberpunk Edgerunners. If you told me back in 2020 that there was going to be an anime for Cyberpunk, I would laugh at you. But now seeing this colorful, adrenaline-fueled beauty, all I can say is that this definitely revived my love for the cyberpunk aesthetic. So now you're asking, why this? Why did Cyberpunk Edgerunners make me re-love this genre? Well, in order to answer this question, let's rewind a bit to the beginning of the story. Our tale begins with a young child who will do great things, right? Well, not really. This energetic child is David Martinez. He's a street kid in Night City who lives with his mother and is geared towards becoming a corpo at Arasaka, a mega corporation with a hold over the city's prime resources. So it's like Amazon, but more evil. And that's really hard to do. Despite being a top student at Arasaka University, David is bullied by his peers, who look down on him due to his origins. The sheer idea that a street kid can make it big in the corporate world is inconceivable to the rich brats. David isn't interested in being in Arasaka Corpo. He's simply fulfilling his mother's dream because she works extremely hard to make ends meet. I'm not one to make jokes, but like typical anime fashion, all hell breaks loose in the first episode, and not even the first 10 minutes. Tragedy ensues after David and his mother are caught up in a crossfire between two rival parties on the streets, which leads to his mother's death. This understandably overturns David's whole world. Seeing his only family being ripped away from him is heartbreaking. No kid should experience that, but this is a brutal world. No one is invincible, and Studio Trigger, the people behind this anime's production, makes this very, very clear. David is unable to process the grief that comes with such a personal loss. Among his deceased mother's belonging, David finds the Sevestian cyberware, a highly unstable cybernetic implant granting superhuman speed to the user. After failed attempts to sell the cyberware for money, David decides to use the implant on himself, which acts as a catalyst for the events of the entire series. If you are a fan of the game, you will love this show. It adds a new fresh take on a genre that's overlooked by a majority of people. After the questionable launch of the game, people can't really take Cyberpunk 2077 seriously. But with the release of this anime, I definitely see a continuous rise of cyberpunk love, as the series not only expands an already rich world, but also provides meaningful commentary that complements the core ideas of such a complex game. There is a hierarchy in the world of Night City. We, as the viewer, only know the perspective of someone who is at the bottom of the food chain. This detail leaves the viewer more curious about the potential stories that can be produced. I would love to see the perspective of the people at the top, or ordinary people in Night City. But for now, we have David and his journey. For him, at least, the only way to survive is to move up the ranks of the lifestyle one chooses quickly. As David is no corporate sellout, but someone who does not fit into the accepted notions of society. He has no option but to become an edge runner, or in other words, a mercenary outlaw. Well, he doesn't become one immediately that fast. Throughout the show, David meets an array of characters. You have the hot cyborg Lucy, big buff man called Maine, Dorio, Kiwi, and Rebecca, who's one of the most energetic characters in the show, and honestly, I love it. The voice actors of all these characters bring life to an already colorful world. Each character you see has a distinct style, which allows each of them to have their own fan base. Each side character is given time to shine and make an impression on the audience. Take Lucy for example. Lucy is a gifted netrunner who David meets. She introduces him to a very interesting crew, all of whom have their own use. Even this guy, he has long arms and gold fists. Due to the technological advancements of the world, almost every citizen has some sort of cybernetic implant, which offers some sort of advantage that their organic bodies do not. An over-reliance on cyberware has its own downsides for sure, as modifying your organic body beyond its limits can break your mind, body, and soul, becoming more machine than human. Although it may seem such a big part of the show, it really serves as a backdrop for all these characters that we will love. But this is no fairy tale with happy endings. Spoilers ahead. The appeal of Cyberpunk Edgerunners comes down to human narrative about characters who have been loved and lost. David emerges as a protagonist worth rooting for, even when he makes decisions that are not in his best interests. Despite the excessive cyberware galore, the character arcs are driven by stark human motivations, often fueled by trauma and the need to escape a cruel, ruthless, and horrible world. There's a love story at the core of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which is neither commodified nor used as a mere plot point just for the sake of it. In a world rife with cyborgs looking to make it big, humanity still exists, no matter how warped or evolved that notion is. Romance appears as the balancing element in Edgerunners, a potential escape for David based in something real, even idealistic. The violence and commodification of the setting, the chaos and random ugliness, as well as the nature of the game itself, would suggest a cynical point of view. But it's not like that at all. The bright-eyed kid proclaims he's gonna fly his love interest to the moon. In that moment, he and the director damn well meant it. It feels so real. However, such interest does become dangerous. Lucy's attempt to keep David out of harm's way and his corresponding attempts to fulfill her dreams end up endangering both of them. Even still, the creator, Imashi and CD Projekt Red, rejects cynicism like the human body does cybernetic implants. It only makes the tragedy of the series sting all the more. The last episode is sad and brutal. It gives you hope, but crushes it immediately. The sad and brutal part is that this love story between David and Lucy can never see a happy ending, as characters are broken, empty shells of themselves, a ghost, a husk, and that's it. The very thing that makes those lifeless metal killing machines is cyberpsychosis. Both in the game and the show, this disease is a major problem that plagues the city. Humans who have cyberpsychosis are called cyberpsychos, which is a really clever name, by the way. This illness is caused by excessive use of cyberware, which leads the patient to the edge of psychosis. Having cyberware may seem cool, but this show really makes sure that this is a dream you don't really want to be fulfilled. There's nothing really beautiful about the Night City. It's brutal, it's death, and it's pain. But, I mean, having robot hands does sound kinda cool, not gonna lie. There's a loss of identity, which is caused by the obsession and reliance of cyberware. This induces anxiety and instability to its users. It's more of a drug than enhancement. Cyberpsychos are considered dangerous and impulsive, as shown in the series and the game. Sadly, there's no treatment to the condition, and most cyberpsychos end up dying due to interventions by authorities or during dangerous missions. David starts off as a kid with almost no implants, which is understandable as he does not have the necessary funds for a complex surgery. After he becomes an Edgerunner, he turns to more invasive implants, which include the highly unstable Sanvestin, which grants him superhuman speed and agility. Although David is able to withstand the effects of continuous use, symptoms of cyberpsychosis soon set in. It starts with a slight tremor in the hands, and a gradual feeling that he's somehow special and meant to emerge at the top. As cyberpsychosis also leads to gradual mental degradation, David starts experiencing the symptoms as the anime unfolds. Everyone around him, including Lucy, asks David to take a breather and stop before things become dire for him. However, David has a heavy burden to carry. He's haunted by the deaths of loved ones and needs to move up to the ranks of edge running to make a name for himself. He's trying to prove himself to a world that doesn't seem to care about him. He's constantly living out someone else's dream, disregarding his own needs, be it emotional, physical, or psychological. Despite his admiring perseverance, he has no match for what the future holds for him. He will die, but I also think it's important to note he's aware of his future. What makes David so awesome is that he has no regrets before dying. In his eyes, he accomplished what he wanted to do. He dies knowing that he will be a legend in Night City. However, the most important part is that Lucy, his love he cares so much for, is safe. She is now able to go to the moon and fulfill her dreams. This is heartbreaking. By the time you reach the conclusion of the story, you feel empty and feel the same sense of grief that envelops Lucy. This goes to show that everything is fragile. Life, love, happiness can all fall apart. But in that cynicism, there's still hope. You can still follow your dreams and remember the ones you care for, just like Lucy. Cyberpunk Edgerunners is a beautiful, bombastic homage to the world of Cyberpunk 2077, with an amazing love story at its core. Lucy and David, as broken as they are, did everything in the power to protect each other. But by doing that, one had to face death. But I guess the silver lining is that the love he cares for so much is safe.